Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be talking about Palantir Technologies, the data analytics company that's really been making a name for itself in both
Well, yeah.
government and commercial spaces.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got some pretty
And we've got some fresh news from Investopedia,
fresh news.
published just today, November 15th, 2024. And it looks like Palantir is making a strategic move with potentially huge implications.
Well, what's really interesting is that they're switching their stock listing from the New York Stock Exchange to the NASDAQ Global Select Market.
Okay.
Starting November 26th.
So they're moving to the NASDAQ.
Yeah, it's not just a change of address, though.
But why is that such a big deal? What's the real advantage for them?
Well, you see, the NASDAQ, and particularly the NASDAQ 100 index,
Okay.
it's more than just a list of companies. It's like a signal to the market,
Oh, I see.
especially to those big institutional investors that a company's a serious player.
Yeah.
In the tech world, think of it as like a benchmark for innovation and growth.
So you're saying it's not just about visibility for them.
Right.
It's about attracting a different kind of investor.
Exactly.
The kind with tons of money who are always on the lookout for the next
Deep pockets. Yeah,
big thing in tech.
exactly. And Palantir, with their recent performance, actually exceeding quarterly expectations. It seems like they're really positioning themselves for that kind of attention.
And it's interesting, they specifically said they are anticipating meeting the eligibility requirements for the NASDAQ 100.
Right.
They sound pretty confident about making the cut.
Yeah.
But what are those requirements?
Well, to join this elite club,
Yeah.
Palantir's going to have to meet certain criteria.
Sure.
It's not as simple as just being listed on the NASDAQ.
Right.
They need to maintain a certain market capitalization, basically the total value of all their outstanding shares.
Okay.
And they've got to have significant trading volume, indicating that there's strong investor interest.
So it sounds like they're aiming to be listed up there with the giants like Apple, Microsoft, and even NVIDIA, the leader in the AI boom.
Absolutely. It's a pretty ambitious goal.
It is. It's a pretty ambitious goal.
It really raises the question, though, why would Palantir, with its close ties to government agencies,
Yeah.
seek a listing on the NASDAQ, a hub for publicly traded tech companies?
That is interesting. It's almost like they're trying to shift their image, from this shadowy government contractor to a more mainstream tech innovator.
Yeah.
Could this be a sign that they're trying to broaden their investor base, maybe even moving towards more commercial products?
Well, that's definitely a possibility.
Okay.
We know that they have been working on expanding their commercial client base.
Yeah.
So maybe this is a way to kind of signal that shift to a wider audience.
And then there's the whole Seal factor.
Oh, yeah.
Palantir's connection to billionaire investor Peter Thiel
Right.
adds a layer of intrigue to this whole thing.
Oh,
Thiel
right.
is known for.
Yeah. He is.
Making bold bets and his vision for groundbreaking technology. Could this be part of a larger plan to really disrupt the tech landscape?
Well, Thiel's involvement definitely adds certain mystique to Palantir.
Sure.
He's a controversial figure, no doubt, but
Yeah.
there's just no denying his influence in the tech world. It'll be fascinating to see how his vision aligns with Palantir's ambitions going forward.
It seems like they're making a calculated move to position themselves for growth and attract a whole new wave of investors.
Yeah.
But what about the retail investors who are already so enthusiastic about Palantir,
Right.
even with some analysts questioning their stock valuation?
Well, that's a really interesting aspect of this whole story.
Yeah.
This strong retail interest that we're seeing suggests that individual investors, they might be seeing something in Palantir's long-term potential that traditional metrics just aren't capturing.
Maybe they're betting on Palantir's unique position right at that intersection of government and technology.
It could be.
Or maybe they're drawn to the company's work in those cutting-edge fields, like artificial intelligence and big data.
It's probably a combination of factors,
Sure.
but it's clear that Palantir has captured the imagination of a lot of individual investors,
Yeah.
and that enthusiasm could definitely play a role in their future success.
So we've got this intriguing mix here.
We do.
A strategic move to the NASDAQ, a potential shakeup in the tech landscape, and a loyal base of retail investors who seem to believe in Palantir's long-term potential.
And even Deutsche Bank analysts have highlighted this strong retail investor base
Oh, wow.
as a significant factor in Palantir's overall market perception. It seems like everyone's watching to see what they do next.
It definitely feels like Palantir is at a turning point.
Yeah.
They're signaling a shift in their strategy, aiming for greater visibility and recognition in the tech world.
Right.
But the question remains, what does this all mean for their future growth and their place in this constantly evolving tech landscape?
Well, that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to answer it, I think we need to look more closely at Palantir's financials,
Okay.
their growth potential, and the competitive landscape they're facing.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's do that.
All right. So let's dive into those financials you mentioned.
Sure. Palantir's journey has been a bit of a roller coaster, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has ups and downs for sure.
Yeah. Their stock price has been all over the place, and some analysts are a little worried about their valuation. But we are seeing growth, and there's potential for them to be profitable in the long run.
What stands out to you in their recent performance?
Well, they've been steadily increasing their revenue, which is always a good sign.
Yeah.
And they've landed some really big contracts, especially with the government, which is their traditional stronghold.
Right.
But they're also starting to make some headway in commercial markets,
Interesting.
which could really fuel their growth in the future.
So it's like they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Diversifying their client base could make them less vulnerable to things like economic downturns or,
Right.
changes in government spending.
Exactly. They're hedging their bets and getting ready for a future where data analytics is even more important to governments and businesses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we can't forget about the competitive landscape.
Of course.
Palantir isn't the only player in this data analytics game.
Right.
There are a ton of other companies, big and small, all trying to get a piece of that pie.
They're going up against some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Like IBM, Microsoft, and even these specialized AI startups that are popping up everywhere.
Right. It's a crowded field, no doubt.
It is.
But what seems to set Palantir apart is their focus on that complex, large-scale data analysis and their ability to handle sensitive information. They built a solid reputation for developing those custom-made solutions for their clients, particularly in government and defense.
And that reputation is likely a big reason why investors are interested in them.
Right.
They're not just buying software, they're buying expertise and a history of success in dealing with those really challenging, high-stakes data problems.
It's a good point. It's not just about crunching numbers,
Right.
It's about extracting insights from these complex data sets, and often in real time. That's really valuable in a world where data is seen as such a strategic asset.
It's like they're bridging the gap between that raw data and informed decision-making.
Exactly.
Which is crucial in fields like intelligence gathering, national security, even business strategy.
Absolutely. So going back to their move to the NASDAQ, could this be part of a bigger strategy to appeal to a new type of investor?
Okay.
The ones who are looking for companies that are really pushing the boundaries of data analytics and AI.
That's a really interesting question. It seems like they're trying to show everyone that they're not just a government contractor anymore, but a forward-thinking tech company that's ready to play in the big leagues of AI and big data.
And if they can position themselves as a leader in those areas, it could lead to significant growth potential.
Okay.
Maybe even justifying their current valuation and attracting even more investors.
It's like they're betting on the future of data
Yeah.
and trying to position themselves to be at the forefront of that wave.
But we have to remember that the tech world is always changing.
Right.
New technologies are always emerging. Competition gets tougher.
Sure.
And investor sentiment can change really quickly.
Absolutely. There's no guarantee of success, even for a company like Palantir with their history and their potential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are always risks, especially in a field as dynamic as technology.
True. But for those who are willing to take a calculated risk, Palantir's move to the NASDAQ and their goal of being included in that NASDAQ 100 could be a really interesting opportunity.
Definitely a story worth watching.
Yeah.
The next few weeks and months will be really telling as we see how this all plays out and whether Palantir can actually achieve what they've set out to do.
Okay, so to recap, Palantir's financials show that they're growing, but they're also facing challenges with their valuation and competition. Their move to the NASDAQ seems like a strategic move to bring in new investors and really establish themselves as a leader in this rapidly changing world of data analytics and AI.
And while there are definitely risks involved, their unique capabilities, strong government ties, and that growing commercial presence, they make them a company to keep an eye on in the next few years.
Absolutely. But there's one more piece of this puzzle that we need to talk about. What are the wider implications of Palantir's growing influence on the tech landscape as a whole?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it really makes you think how a company like Palantir, working in this kind of niche area of data analytics,
Right.
could have such a big impact on the whole tech industry.
Well, it's not just about the tech itself,
Right.
It's about what that tech means for the world. Palantir's work deals with some pretty sensitive stuff.
Yeah, like what?
Government surveillance, intelligence gathering, even national security.
Exactly. And as their influence grows, especially if they get into that NASDAQ 100 and attract even more investors,
Right.
those implications become even bigger.
They do. It raises questions about that balance between using data to make decisions and individual privacy.
Right.
The possibility of algorithms being biased
Yeah.
and the ethical side of using these powerful data analytics tools.
It's like we're entering this new era where data is the most valuable thing out there.
Yeah.
And companies like Palantir, they hold the keys to unlocking its potential, but they could also be shaping how that data is used.
Their move to the NASDAQ could be seen as a step towards making the use of these technologies more normal
Okay.
in all sorts of sectors, not just government and defense.
Which could have both good and bad consequences.
Exactly.
On one hand, data analytics can be a powerful tool for problem solving,
Yeah.
making things more efficient, even saving lives.
For sure.
Mm.
But on the other hand, it brings up concerns about data privacy, the potential for misuse, and the concentration of power in the hands of those who control this technology.
It's a complicated issue with no easy answers.
It is.
And it's something that investors, policymakers, and just everyday people need to be thinking about as companies like Palantir continue to grow and become more influential.
We have to remember that technology itself isn't good or bad.
Right.
It's all about how we choose to use it.
And that choice is something that affects us all.
Yeah.
It's not just about making money. It's about creating the kind of future we want to live in.
Exactly.
A future where data is used responsibly, ethically, and for the benefit of everyone.
I think that's a great point to leave our listeners with.
Yeah, I agree.
As we wrap up our deep dive into Palantir Technologies, we encourage you to really think about the implications of these technological advancements.
Yeah.
Have those important conversations and advocate for responsible and ethical use of data.
Because the future of data isn't set in stone. It's something that we're all shaping together.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time for another exploration of the world of tech and innovation.